Welcome to Monarchist Minute. I am William Stout here with Carl and Frederick, and our Vice Chancellor Clements might be joining us shortly. We are here today on Saturday, May 4th of 2024 because Victory in Europe Day is tomorrow, isn't it? It's the 5th, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so
believe
this is our
The second.
second.
No,
Hold on,
wait.
fifth.
Hold on.
Hold on.
It's actually the 8th of May, so we're all wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, we're all wrong.
We're all wrong.
Well, anyway, Victory in Europe Day is coming up, and so this is our Victory in Europe Day special. We'll be talking about the relationship between monarchy and fascism, and, well, frankly, the lack of relationship and the foolish relationship that some people seem to think there is between monarchists and fascists. And we'll also be talking about the different kings, queens, and monarchs that fought in the war and aided the resistance against the fascist threat in the European continent. And also some of the few cases where there were more complicated relationship between the various dictatorships and monarchs, both who were reigning at the time and those who were deposed.
Yeah. Yeah, so Lavender puts this in great detail. I recommend you watch his video on it. But yeah, monarchism and fascism don't really work together very well.
Right, because in fascism, everything exists for the will of the state or within the state, and so having a monarch means you have something that the people are loyal to besides the state.
Yeah, but if the people are loyal to the monarch, then there's going to be some problems there for the fascist dictator.
Right.
Well, I do have to bring up...
It was the same for the Italian dictator Benito Mussolini, because he wanted to remove the king, but he feared it could cause a civil war.
Well, yes, and that is the main controversy behind Emmanuel III's reign, is he was in a catch-22 position where Mussolini could not remove him without causing significant backlash, but he could not remove Mussolini without also causing a conflict.
Well, I have to talk about the obvious elephant in the room. What about Corneliu Cutranu and Oswald Mosley, who are described as monarcho-fascists? What about them? They seem to like the monarchy. Corneliu Cutranu has the quote, "Not all monarchs are good, but the system of monarchy itself is inherently good." And Mosley loved King George. Well, no, Edward the 8th, I believe.
You mentioned Mosley?
Yeah, Mosley and Corneliu Cutranu.
Is that related to Oswald Mosley?
No, yeah, Oswald Mosley.
Oh, I've never heard the full other three names.
No, Corneliu Cutranu is some Romanian man, founder of the Iron Guard, not leader.
He was the Iron
No,
Guard.
he was the leader, and then he got killed, and then Hora Zima, who was he hated the Jews, alright. I mean, really didn't like them.
The way you said it made it seem like they were the same person. That was my bad. Well, the thing about Mosley is that Mosley was kind of a what's the word I'm looking for? He was very disliked even by the British people, and as for Corneliu Cutranu, it seemed that there was always a constant stalemate between the Iron Guard and the Romanian monarchy, as neither of them could really agree with what the destiny of the Romanian country was. And as we saw with King Michael II, it was definitely not a mutually beneficial or mutually respected relationship.
I have to say this, and forgive me about this. I'm a slave for the details, but it was Michael the First. Really, there hasn't been a Michael.
Sorry,
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
But And
Sorry.
as a question, well, we never really got to see what Corneliu Cutranu would be like if he got prime minister. I think it would have been a very tense relationship, but I don't think Cutranu would try and go against Michael if he was king. Now, Carol II, I know he wouldn't like him, because those two were the opposites.
Well, yeah, Carol was a hedonist, so...
Yeah, he had a Jewish mistress, too, he actually married her, too. So, that ruffled some feathers.
Well, with Cornelia Cordrano, I would say that Romania would probably lose more of its autonomy and identity and just end up being a German puppet or satellite state. But I do think that what Michael I did was a good thing, because ultimately I think what it did was it saved Romania, at least for all the 5 minutes until the Soviets came in and
forced him to abdicate.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I love Michael.
Yeah, and especially if we consider the communist dictatorship of Romania, the Soviets, out of all the Eastern Bloc countries, I think got the worst deal out of it. I mean, Romanians, not the Soviets. Why am I getting my words mixed up tonight?
Yeah.
Anyway, Clements, how are you?
I'm good.
Hi.
So, Clements, you were on that episode a while back with Lavender. What are some of the things he wanted to talk about when it comes to the relationship between fascism and monarchy?
I don't remember.
Okay. But, on to the topic of, monarchs who served in the resistance, we have a few interesting choices, one of which was, of course, Queen Elizabeth herself, who, while, yes, not technically serving in the resistance, did serve as an ambulance driver during the war, which is a very admirable thing, to be a royal during the Blitz and serving your country by putting yourself immediately in harm's way, being a first responder. That's bold, especially given that at that time it wasn't really considered appropriate for women to serve.
Well, I have a tale that can only be 2 tales, sorry. Actually, no 3, no 4 tales that can best that. The first tale I will tell you is that of King Hakon. I don't know my Roman numerals, which I'm going to apologize for in advance. The King of Norway during World War II, King Hakon. What he did... No, was it Hakon? Yes, it was.
I think it might be Harkon. There's an
Harkon. Well, anyways, before he left his country to flee to Britain, he took the crown off his head. Probably wasn't on his head. He buried the crown of Norway in the yard, like in the palace yard, so that the crown would never leave Norway. And the second story I will tell you is that of King Leopold III, who stayed with his country throughout World War II and was forced to abdicate, if I know my story right, by the Nazis. And he resisted very bravely.
It was after the war. After the war,
Yeah.
he was forced to abdicate due to the fact it was a multitude of reasons behind it, though.
Yes. And the third story, which is something I think we've all heard about a little bit, is King Christian X and his bravery and how he stood up for the Jewish communities in Denmark and Copenhagen and whatnot by wearing a yellow star. I think he was a courageous man, not to mention the birthday crisis when Adolf Hitler wished King Hakon happy birthday, and Hakon
It was King... no, that was King Christian.
Yes, King Christian, sorry. King Christian didn't accept the happy birthday message, and it started a little mini crisis between Germany and Denmark. And my last story will be of I actually have the man's book here in my hands. King Peter II of Yugoslavia. From the get-go, he actually was telling his uncle that he wanted war. Well, kind of, not really. He knew in his own book, he said if Poland, Czechoslovakia, Romania, and Yugoslavia all got together, or something along the lines of if we all got together and crushed Hitler when he invaded Czechoslovakia, or it was either Czechoslovakia or Poland, I can't remember, we would have crushed the Nazis. Not to mention, his uncle, Paul, God bless him, he was in a bad spot, but Peter overthrew his own uncle just to make sure that his country wouldn't go towards the Nazis. Peter was also a brave king and helped lead resistance.
World War II era Yugoslavia has a special place in my heart because it's such a forgotten theater of the war, but so much happened in it and so much sacrifice and resistance happened because the Yugoslavians, for the most part, liberated themselves from Nazi oppression without the aid of foreigners or foreign military armies, and the only real reason I don't think the Yugoslav monarchy managed to survive the war is because eventually the Chetniks sold out due to anti-communist sentiments, and they unfortunately and rather poorly decided to side with the German occupiers rather than their king.
Fight them, yeah.
Sir, if I may, I'm going to play the devil's advocate here. The Chetniks weren't entirely at fault for that, because the Allies dropped their support for them, and the Chetniks did try and not go towards the Nazis for a while, and I agree, them going towards the Nazis was not a smart move. Don't like it. Don't like that they did that. But they were fighting two enemies at the same time. You can't really do that if you're fighting the Germans in World War II. They have much better technology and whatnot. So they just had to cut cards with the devil, so to speak, and turn their forces against the communists in hopes of a greater Serbia after the war.
Right, and of course I hear you being the devil's advocate, but under no circumstances can I ever say the devil in that department is important. Frederick, something?
You know the state of Croatia that was created during, that time?
Oh, what?
What was it?
You know it's bad when the Nazis say, tone it down.
Yeah. Ugh, I don't like them.
Yeah, Croatia during World War II was way worse than the Nazis.
Yeah, in fact, I'd rather we not go into too much detail on it on the podcast, just for sensibilities.
Yeah, because they were pretty brutal. But I'm not gonna lie. The Iron Guard were also brutal, but
that was after Cordranu. Cordranu kind of kept it under wraps. Zima did not. Zima just did not care. He was gonna, hell or high water, he was gonna kill as many Jews or enemies to Romania as he could.
Hang on a minute.
Yeah.
Look who it is.
Hey, it's Watercube.
How are you tonight?
Hello, Watercube.
I am very tired. I woke up at 8:47. I looked at the time. I was like, "Oh, the podcast going. I gotta run over there."
Well, better late than ever. We're talking about different monarchs and the resistances they helped lead during World War II.
Okay. Yeah, I heard stuff about Codrianu and heard the Codrianu's defense. Neva did not put a leash on them, by the way. He was the worst of them. They lynched a 6-year-old Jewish girl under Codrianu's watch.
Wait.
Jeez.
Back in the 1920s, before the Iron Guard moved on from being a college youth group.
Are you sure this was Cordranu or was this Zima?
No, Codrianu. He was a vicious anti-Semite. He was... No, it was a classic pogrom, but it happened with his approval. Having read a fair bit of Codrianu's work, he was a vicious Jew baiter and anti-Semite with a vicious hatred of those people, willing to brutalize and murder them as he saw fit.
See, from what I've heard, it was always Zima who did that. but I do apologize. I was wrong.
But anyway, to back up to King Christian, because I know we talked about King Christian briefly before you showed up, Waterkey, but one of the fun little tidbits and one of the fun stories I always remember about King Christian that makes me think, wow, what a guy, is how he would routinely ride his horse around Copenhagen during the occupation just to flex on the German soldiers that were around the city holding it hostage, and just showing that they were powerless to stop him. Even as they occupied his country, they could not subjugate the Danish people.
Yeah.
The Danes always have had spirit. Like, you know about the Danish pig?
You know what?
Actually, I was wrong. It was actually the telegram crisis.
Telegram crisis. Oh, was that the birthday crisis you were talking about?
Yeah, so basically, King Christian,
Yeah, so essentially Hitler told him happy birthday, and he refused to accept the...
No, he didn't refuse it. He just put, giving my best thanks, King Christian. And Hitler thought it was a perceived slight, and Hitler got his ambassador back from Copenhagen, and he got really mad over this.
Well, it's Hitler. Like, Hitler took everything as a slight. There's a whole... Except things from Tiso. Hitler was he was a guy. A character,
Tiso or Hitler?
No. I'm talking about Hitler's just interactions diplomatically. He was very choleric.
Yes. Yeah. I think it was best to have Ribbentrop do that. Manage his diplomacy.
Ribbentrop was just as choleric, but he just was a bit more tolerable. Hermann Göring, I remember calling during the Nuremberg trial, calling Ribbentrop an idiot, saying he should be on trial for his idiocy.
Yes, the old fat man.
It just goes to show that narcissistic dictatorships attract other toxic narcissists underneath them in some weird hierarchy of self-worshipping.
Well, honestly, you don't need to go with the weird hierarchy. All you got to point at is Führer principle, which, as soon as you implement something where it's the leader is to be unquestioned unilaterally and also viewed as the only leader, you just invite more narcissists to be their own little Führers, their own little offices.
Yeah.
And I remember reading that or watching a video, I think it was from the Armchair Historian, that when they applied this logic to the German military with the way Germans managed their tactics, instead of having a highly efficient, decentralized military, what happened is they basically created a bunch of small little warlords that ran around basically fighting for their own glory and refused to work with each other.
Oh, yeah. The SS military wings were a huge example of this. People talk about how great the Waffen SS was, when most of the time they were just kind of doing dumb decisions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I would...
some weird and some outright stupid.
Mm-hmm.
See, the thing about World War II and the Holocaust is it could have all been avoided. And I'm just going to start peddling off of Baron's ribbon here, because he said exactly what I'm going to say. World War I was the suicide of Europe. World War II was just the defiling of the corpse. Because, let's face it, if we had Kaiser Wilhelm II in charge, do you really think an Austrian commoner with no education would be allowed to be made a chancellor? Because the Kaiser of Germany appointed his own chancellors, and most often than not, they were of the independent party. Not to mention, they were from nobility and they were educated. There had only been one chancellor to that point that was uneducated, and he was educated but not of nobility. So the idea that an Austrian commoner with no education would become chancellor is just absurd. And not to mention, the Kaiser could just remove him anytime he wants. Yeah, World World War One and the death of monarchy in Europe is the start of World War II and the massacre of 6 million innocent people for no reason.
Okay, I think
you're and there's a theory saying that there were going to be 2 world wars because the assassin, what was his name?
Develop principle.
Yeah, so he fired 2 shots, right? And those 2 shots represented, the future to come.
Well,
that's just poppycock.
Also, the other thing to mention is that I think you're attributing too much to Hitler's personal actions for the cause of the Holocaust when it came from a huge amount of anti-Semitic feelings around the time. The Holocaust could have been predicted since the Dreyfus affair in France because of how much anti-Semitism was on the rise throughout Europe, the rise of anti-Semitic parties under Kaiser Wilhelm II's watch. To some point, he endorsed anti-Semitic organizations that were starting to get into parliament.
But he would have never massacred Jews. That's the thing. Being an anti-Semite and killing 6 million people... 6 million people is a huge difference to me. And no, both
it's the natural evolution of
not good.
It's the natural evolution of anti-Semitism is a purge and pogrom. Like the DNVP have worked with some of the I'm trying to remember the Volkish party names that were existing in the parliament at that time, but basically that led to a normalization of anti-Semitism that later led to the growth of the Nazi Party and the other Volkish groups that did anti-Semitic purges, anti-Semitic pogroms, and even if Kaiser Wilhelm was in charge, we'd see a rise of anti-Semitism and a rise of pogroms where it wouldn't be a good society nonetheless because anti-Semitism wasn't viewed as a major.
Second would have not allowed pogroms. I don't know where you're getting that idea from. He didn't like the Jews. Oh, yeah, that's a fact. He didn't like the Jews. No,
even
he wouldn't allow.
Even his own
father. Gentlemen, one at a time.
May I finish my point?
Right.
Now, Wilhelm. I mean, the reason why I say he wouldn't allow pogroms is because in his own diary, or I think it was his diary that he said on the Kristallnacht, for the first time ever, I am ashamed to be a German. Now, if he was truly he was an anti-Semite. He said the Jews destroyed Austria-Hungary. But if he was a radical anti-Semite, he would have said, we need to go further, or I am proud that Hitler has done this. He never said that. He didn't support Hitler. I don't think he would have done that.
You are, one, again, ignoring the political situation at the time, which was Kaiser Wilhelm hated Hitler and hated the Nazi Party movement. But if the Kristallnacht happened under other groups, other Volkish groups that paid lip service to Kaiser Wilhelm, he probably would have been a lot more tolerant of Kristallnacht. Like the shame of Kishinev, for example, with Russia, the only reason why that's a view that was allowed was because the people involved were pro-monarch, and it gave them a chance to basically double down and strengthen their position with the Black Hundreds and with the local governor there resource-wise. Most of the pogroms half the time were just a way to allow populist feeling and anti-Semitism to kind of go out and toward an orgasmic violence. Earlier on with the Iron Guard, when we were talking about them, their whole thing with their brutality towards the Jews before they even took power with lynchings came from that excess of violence, and it was not really tolerated, but it was viewed kind of as normal because pogroms were the norm for most of European history throughout most of those countries. If Kristallnacht, a lot of the stuff when it comes down to the Holocaust could have been predicted with the rise of anti-Semitic feelings, the rise of the Volkish movement in Germany, and that movement wasn't going to die down if the emperor remained in charge. If anything, they just would have deified him further, because that's what the Volkish movement aimed to do, was to create a Germanic cult of the state.
Frederick, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, I was about to say earlier that even his Wilhelm's own father was not for anti-Semitism, because I believe he went to a synagogue in protest against his own people doing anti-Semite protest.
I don't know enough about Frederick III to comment on that. What are you, or Carl, what are you?
I do not know enough either, but I would also, there was a reaction against anti-Semitism going throughout most places, especially with the rise of the Enlightenment, with the incorporation of Jews into the nation state, especially in Germany. The issue was it wasn't just full force. So it was a kind of a dice roll, and if someone was pro-Jewish or anti-Semitic.
Right. There is. Well, while we're on the topic of Germany and Wilhelm II, I want to take a moment to talk about Wilhelm III, one of the few examples when a major royal, or I guess what you'd call a potential monarch to be, seemed to unfortunately side very closely with the fascists, and the House of Hohenzollern is still stained to this day. I know a while back Prince George Friedrich was in a legal battle due to his great uncle's horrific association with the Nazis, primarily for his own self-serving goal of re-establishing the German monarchy under the Nazi Party. Anyone?
I'm not too familiar with Wilhelm III's flirtations with fascism and Nazism to make a proper comment.
But even then, Hitler wouldn't have wanted, the monarchy to return because he was not the most pro-monarchy guy there.
Right. I'm not saying it's yeah, like I'm saying not saying it was going to happen. I'm just saying that Wilhelm III really tried, and he ended up getting in really deep. And honestly, it's still a shame on the House of Hohenzollern to this day because of that. And, it's something that, if the German monarchy is ever restored, cannot be ignored. And, it's really sad. And of course, the Spanish monarchy has a similar complicated history because of their relationship with the Franco regime.
Alright,
of course, the reestablishment of the monarchy ended up destroying the Franco regime, but still a lot of critics of the Spanish monarchy still argue that without backing by Franco, the monarchy would have never been restored, and that makes them complicit.
That's something that's debatable, but honestly, I think credits where credits due with the ending of the Francoist regime in Spain, which that thing needed to fall.
Mm-hmm. Didn't the king at the time, I forget which king it was, get a Nobel Peace Prize for managing to successfully dismantle the dictatorship without...
I don't know if... Was Juan Carlos given a Peace Prize?
Yeah, actually, no, I don't know.
I don't know either. But I just...
Maybe I strictly remember that Juan Carlos was given some sort of a reward or award or accommodation for successfully dismantling the Franco regime without firing a shot or killing anyone. He was considered a hero of liberal democracy because of it. It's some kind of reward. I don't remember which one.
And of course, he's the only monarch on Wikipedia that doesn't have a list of all the awards he's gotten.
You're serious, right?
Who doesn't?
The Juan Carlos, all it has is
he has a list of titles and honors of Juan Carlos of Spain. Yeah,
and that just has the royal titles and orders, etc. Compared to did he win a Nobel Peace Prize or something? Oh, there's the list. Oh, I'm just a dumbass. Never mind.
What does it say?
Let's see. The International Simone Bolivar Prize.
That might have been
it. He got awarded it the same year as Nelson Mandela.
Good for him.
Neat.
Well, first of all, if I ever start getting a little crazy, just let me know. Second of all, it's very ironic that they name a prize the Simon Bolivar Prize for peace, I'm assuming, when Simon Bolivar massacred innocent Spanish soldiers who had surrendered.
Apparently it's to contribute to the freedom, independence, and dignity of peoples and to the strengthening of a new international economic, social, and cultural order. So it's not about peace.
Oh, Here's a funny one. Also looking through his awards, he was a member of the Sons of American Revolution organization.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Meaning he had, if I remember correctly, that means he had at least one blood relative that fought in the American Revolution. Interesting.
He was also the honorary president of the Organization of Ibero-American States. Huh.
What is that? I've never heard of that.
Basically, like, it seems like some cultural union, or is it economic? But it's between all the Romance language, or Hispanic language.
So it's kind of like the Commonwealth of Nations, but for Spain.
But also including Portugal and Brazil.
I see.
Well, say the thing about... Pardon?
You were going to say something?
The thing about Franco and Salazar were buddies. Like, really buds. Because, they were kind of grapes of the vine, Salazar didn't take power violently, but Salazar was a Catholic. And also, I think Spain and Portugal at the time of Salazar and Franco had a lot economically going on. And I think both Salazar and Franco didn't like fascism because Salazar said that fascism was just crazy and pagan Caesarism.
Okay, like that's very inaccurate for both of their movements. Both the Francoist regime in Spain and the Salazarist regime in Portugal took heavy inspiration from fascism. And at first, Salazar identified and wrote often to Mussolini for guidance, including having a portrait of Mussolini on his desk for a while. Like, and same with the Francoist regime, with the co-option of the Phalangists, the usage of Phalangist imagery and identity in order to push forward the Francoist cause before Franco slowly undermined that.
Well, the thing about the Phalangists were they were just the useful idiots for him.
No, they weren't. They were really weak. They wouldn't make sense to use as a tool unless you at least agreed on some level with a lot of their tenets, which Franco did, at least with corporatism and at least with the economic models.
I mean, yeah, but the thing is, during the Civil War, Franco wasn't picky. Hey, if you could hold a gun and you were for his side, you go right at him, champ.
Yes, but to adopt the party name of the Phalangist party, well, technically the Phalange, JONS, to adopt that as the main party name and also adopting some of Jose Antonio Dima Primavera's ideas as ideology, at least during the Civil War and a bit after the Civil War period, until Francoism really came into full force as just another Cadillo system.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of ignoring the ideological development of Spanish fascism and its influences on Francoism, especially how that also played into the Dicta Blanda beforehand. Like, there's a lot going on with Franco. To just say put him in the non-fascist box is a little unfair, I'd say.
Well, I think we have beat Europe to death. Frederick, you haven't spoken for a while. Do you have anything on to
say? Not really.
All right, so I guess we're going to make this a shorter episode, but before we do, I remember, Carl, since we briefly touched on Latin America, you wanted to do something for Cinco de Mayo.
And I'm going to have to read off a script because I printed this out at school. I'm not gonna...
Understandable.
All right. And for... Alright, so I'm going to talk about the necessity of monarchy, especially in the case of Mexico. I thought this appropriate because I meant to, Sunday is the anniversary of the Battle of Puebla, which happened in 1862 between forces of the Second French Empire and the liberal Mexicans, which, keep in mind, wasn't that much of a big victory for the liberals, but it was a small victory. The failure of the monarchists and the French intervention has led to the modern state of Mexico. Emperor Maximilian, although not a monarch for very long, was the model of a brave Catholic Habsburg monarch. Under the reign of Maximilian, he abolished debt in Mexico, along with many other things. Maximilian had previously governed Venetia Lombardy under the Austrian Empire, but he was unhappy because his brother Franz Joseph did not let him rule as he saw fit. So, when the French offered Maximilian the throne of Mexico, he accepted, although not instantly. He did wait a good bit. But anyways, Maximilian adopted Mexican dress and learned Spanish to better communicate and understand with his new subjects. His dreamy ideals of an enlightened monarchy and bringing order and stability to Mexico, while romantic and would have made Mexico a much better place, did not last very long. It is ironic that America complains about the immigrants from Mexico, but the reason we have this is because Mexico was never allowed to be a stable country. Because Mexico, for the majority of Mexican history, it was just a cycle of civil war, stability under a dictatorship, and then a civil war. And that's just led to the drug cartels. So,
you're ignoring American influence with the cartels. That's very important to mention.
Right. And I would also say that there's also a very big part that the reason these civil wars constantly happen is due to... Well, go ahead, yeah.
Yes. And this could have been, I think, negated or avoided if we allowed Maximilian to be Emperor of Mexico. Now, the pretext established, I encourage you all to watch the Blue Barons video on this subject, because I'm not doing a good job explaining it. I'm just giving you the bare bones. But back to the topic. Monarchies are necessary for our survival. There hasn't been many times in history in which a monarch is removed and it was a peaceful process. Because removing a monarch is removing God's chosen leader, and it is removing order and stability. For all the faults of Tsar Nicholas II, Charles I, and Alfonso XIII, they were a lot better than what came after them. And that's it. That's a wrap. What I have.
Well, I for one do think that Maximilian II was given a raw deal, and maybe if he had a chance he could have done well, but I feel like in all these cases we're neglecting a very big problem in Mexico, which was institutional corruption, and how widespread corruption in the institutions of Mexico was and still are to this day.
Crowds, I think that could have changed, though.
Right. And I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is that that's the reason these revolutions still happen. When Maximilian came to Mexico, one of the things he failed to do was to destroy the system that was already in place. He failed to take care of the wealthy landowners. He failed to basically rip out the roots of all the corruption and unhealthy institutions that were there in order to create new and better institutions. One could argue that he didn't have a lot of time to do, but that should have been the first thing on his mind to do.
No, the major thing is he got blocked instantly. He was a liberal monarch put in charge of reactionary forces fighting a liberal revolution. Now, he was given the worst hand he possibly could have been given. Because any reform he tried to do was blocked by the rich landowners and those who were basically created his power base for being monarch.
And of course, Napoleon III, who was supposed to be his guarantor, left him high and dry, and so he could stare down the Germans at what ended up being the biggest upset of the century.
Now, I really do think a lot of this does have roots to America, because after the Civil War, we did get a lot more involved and help out the liberals a good bit more.
Well, but of course that was part of our prerogative with the
Monroe
Doctrine, removing European influence and keeping European influence out of the Americas. That was never going to change.
I know, but it's ironic that we complain about Mexican immigrants, but we're part of the reason we've destabilized Mexico a lot, and now we're gonna complain about their immigrants.
Well, yeah, Nick, that's the nature of American policy. You shoot yourself in your foot, and then you complain about how much your foot hurts.
Yes,
that really is the nature of American policy.
We created the cartels a lot through our nascent CIA operations throughout Central and South America to fund anti-communism. then we have a whole fentanyl crisis now caused by how great those supply lines became.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this though. One man and
do I even need to mention him?
Mention who?
Oh.
Okay, Iran-Contra was only a small contributor to the cartels. More it was nascent CIA operations going on throughout most of it, because like they worked with the PRI in Mexico and the PRI's intelligence organization in order to create a stronger marijuana cartel.
Clements, were you about to do your Nixon impersonation?
No, he's about to sing American Dad music, which is also great.
I can do Milhouse Nixon impersonation. People need to know if the president's a crook. Well, I'll tell you right now, I'm not a crook.
I've earned everything I got.
I've earned everything I've got.
I don't like Nixon.
I
don't like
I
Nixon.
love Nixon. Nick, what do you mean? Okay,
Nixon
now.
You know what? Can I give you the reason why I don't like him?
Well, hold on. I'm just gonna say. I think Nixon does get a really bad rap. Just due to really Watergate was not as bad. I don't
care about Watergate.
I mean, I
don't care about Watergate. Spying on the Democrats was kind of base to me. What I care about is he started talking to them communist Chinese, which I don't like.
That was his masterful move. That was what he did. That was his holy quest to make peace with the Chinese. The Chinese are our allies against the foul Russian.
We shouldn't have talked to them commies.
So true.
No.
Maoist China is our greatest ally and will ever be. It's where we get our cheap Walmart goods from, and it's where we get like our society from. God bless China.
So, I don't like communism. I'm
long
live
the CCP.
All right, gentlemen, one at a time.
Okay, I quite like the CCP.
You know, actually, one of my old shop teacher who was, he was a young during the Vietnam era, and he would have been draft age, and he always had a very, very nice reason to like Nixon, and he said it very plainly, very sincerely. He said, that man kept me out of the war, and honestly, I can't think of a better reason to like Nixon.
He got the troops out.
Whatever you have to complain about Nixon, that is a good enough reason, in my opinion. If he kept you from the draft, that's a good enough reason.
Yeah, that's a pretty good reason, yeah.
See, the thing about, and this is going to be a hot take, but the Vietnamese War, well, I don't think we should have been over there for the only reason that we couldn't win. If we weren't going to go in there to win and kill as many communists as we could, then why should we even be there?
The Vietnam War was just due to the fact of the government that we were trying to help out. Because the fact that who was
are you talking about the one that
South Korean? Okay, I don't remember the Catholic guy. The Catholic guy.
I don't know how to speak.
Whatever his name is, I cannot remember him, and I don't want to try and say because I know I'm going to butcher it completely. But the thing about him was the fact that he was his efforts to Catholicize Vietnam were absolutely disastrous.
Today, I will forcibly convert the Buddhists. Smile.
What could possibly go wrong?
What inhumanities could occur here? Honestly, I wish all of that whole family got executed because they all just did terrible things.
Yeah, and then we wonder why didn't we win? Because the fact that we allied ourselves with the government was the most incompetent one possible.
On a morbid bright side, it still led to one of the most metal photos in history of that monk incinerating himself in front of I forget if it was in front of the U.S. Embassy or in front of one of the offices of government.
It was in front of one of the offices of government. Here's the thing. Most of those protests weren't really against Americans. They were against Diem because Diem was an authoritarian despot that tried to force his religion on a people who did not want it and associated it with their former colonizers.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
There's a reason why
go wrong.
There's a reason why Pol Pot started killing people who spoke French. There was a severe hatred of everything European in that area at the time because of all the exploitation that occurred.
Now, Watercube, you are basically the polar opposite to me because I'm about as radical as you can get for a monarchist and a conservative.
No, you're not.
Not to the point. May I finish, please?
Sorry, I was just gonna say you're not, but yeah, go on. Sorry.
I mean, I'm liberal on some things like race. I don't care if you were blue, purple, black, white, green. I just care that you believe similar to what I believe. I care about your values. But I will find the man, Antanas Simtona, the first leader of Lithuania. That is a man. That is a man, Watercube, you can't say anything bad about. Because that man, he was nice to the Jews. He stood up against the communist Soviet Union. He was a great guy, you know. You cannot say anything bad about him.
He's Lithuanian.
Yeah.
He's from the Baltics.
Yeah,
And also, Kemalays just mentioned how he advocated for a fascist system in Lithuania.
No, someone, I don't know if he spelled that wrong, because I'm talking about Simatona, not Matona. I don't know who Matona is. Maybe he just misspelled that. I'm talking about, I'm going to use the source of all knowledge and wisdom. Wikipedia. This is the dude I'm talking about. But Simtona, just because he advocated for a system of government I'm not a big fan of, doesn't mean he's a bad guy. He was nice to the Jews, you know? He did a lot for his country. I mean...
He didn't really feel like killing that Jew.
He just didn't have that anti-Semitic dog in him. Like, that's...
He wasn't...
So true.
And that's a good thing. You know,
yeah,
maybe
it's a good thing.
Yeah, we're not saying it's a bad thing. We're just kind of joking about it.
Yeah, it's just like... That's when the bare minimum is didn't slaughter the Jewish people. Like that's a low bar to cross.
I mean, the thing is, I don't know that much about his presidency. I just know that him and the Jewish community were very nice to each other.
Like, give me some time. I could find something bad about him to point out. Like, everyone has their faults, but also oftentimes the interwar leaders had worse faults because they were experimenting with nation building. It's kind of like how we have a lot of dictators in sub-Saharan Africa, is because those countries are going through an authoritarian build period, trying to nation build and create the mythos of the nation state. Yeah. Kind of like the Ataturk in Turkey.
Yeah.
I will say this though. A lot of history has gray figures that I'm interested in because, and I know this is going to sound odd.
Gray figures.
I know this is going to sound very odd, but I don't hate the man, and I don't love the man, and I don't like how he treated the Jews, but I like how he saved this country from communism, but I don't like how he didn't give his country back to Blessed Karl. Horthy was an interesting one. Not a great one, but an interesting one. He saved his country from the communists, but it just has to be the duality that he didn't let Blessed Karl back into his country, and the White Terror did kill a lot of Jewish people. But on the same token, you know, Bela Kun, the leader of the Communist Party of Hungary, was Jewish. But on the same token, but on the other side of the token, you can't just kill people for being Jewish. You know, that's bad.
But the other thing is he also didn't really save his country for communism. Soviet troops still reached there. And he also did align himself with Hitler and did on some level, not as much, participate in the Holocaust. He put up more resistance than Tiso did, at least, but he still was implicit with the mass slaughter and industrial genocide of the Jewish people in Europe, and also of the Romani people and other discriminatory things that were occurring on a racial level.
All right.
Interwar Austria-Hungary is so much forgotten.
Did we already talk about Dollfuss?
Oh, that man, I like him.
Oh,
Dollfuss.
Yes,
he was a good one.
Good mid-fascist. Yeah. 4'11". I love a manlet king.
Not literally a manlet king.
Like, here's the thing with Dollfuss. Like, outside of all the other fascist movements, I think he was the closest we've ever had to a purely sterile fascism, which is why no one really thinks about him.
Kurt Schuschnigg.
Kurt Schuschnigg. No one cares about Kurt Schuschnigg. No one cares about
it. I think he's cool.
He's
the
after
guy
Dollfuss
who succeeded him.
Yeah, after Dollfuss got popped by Nazi terrorists, Schuschnigg basically took over the reins of state, kept it running for a bit, and then Nazis did Anschluss. Bada bing, bada boom. Austria's no more, and Austro-fascism is dead, and hasn't really been touched upon ever again.
Hey, I think Kurt Schuschnigg is cool.
Yeah, but he's just kind of a speed bump in history.
Yeah,
well,
kind of. He kind of is, you know.
Yeah, that is true, but you know, I don't really think that's his fault. But I will say, one of the best to backtrack to the original point of this episode, one of the best monarchs in World War II was Tsar Boris III of Bulgaria. He, and I know this is going to sound very bad, but when the alternative is genocide, and when the Nazis are breathing down your neck, he kind of had, I can excuse this. He did put the Jews in chain gangs, but I do think he saved a lot of them from, mass slaughter. And was that a good decision? Yes and no. Putting people in chains and making them do forced labor because of their religion, not good. But saving them from mass genocide, good.
It's very good.
The thing that could be argued is that Tsar Boris was able to resist the Nazis on other levels, like the declaration of war against the Soviet Union, which he did not join in Operation Barbarossa. He probably could have, not put the Jews in chain gangs and also still save them from a genocide with the same level of resistance that other small, not explicitly fascist organizations and institutions did with the Nazis. There's still a better chance for resistance. He did the bare minimum of forced labor to keep them alive.
It's kind of crummy that even though he didn't participate in Operation Barbarossa, the Soviets still said, "Nope, we're gonna snatch this."
Well, he was dead by that point.
What do you expect from communists?
What do you expect from the fucking Russians in general?
Exactly,
their geopolitical ambition is always going to be make sure there's a huge breathing room between the East and the West in Europe because they don't have those natural borders or defenses.
That's By the way, water cube language, please.
Oh, sorry about that.
Hey, you're fine, man.
I would like to ask one question.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, but please make it quick. We're running low on time.
I don't know. To close out the episode, let's just talk about Joseph Tiso a little bit, because I don't know that much about him except he was a corrupt chud.
Let me go grab his biography.
What have you done? What have you done? You fool. No, not Tito. Wait, Tito or Tiso?
Tiso, the Slovak man.
Okay, you don't know what you've just done.
What have I done?
You literally, what have you done? You don't know what you've done.
What? I said I don't like him.
Water Cube is the residential expert.
Dude has read up on Tiso.
Okay, I grabbed my Tiso book.
Oh god. Santa Maria.
But before Water Cube absolutely just pours his heart out on this, I need to remind everyone listening to this podcast. Water Cube is a residential expert on anything and all things having to do with niche and weird ideologies. Water Cube, proceed.
Okay, what do you want to know specifically about Joseph Tiso? Because what is worth going into him is the strange fact that he was a priest, how he took power, which was mostly through Jew baiting to raise populist sentiment, even after getting multiple Catholic Church censors telling him, hey, stop using our presses to do anti-Semitic stuff. Stop using our presses for the political party. Hey, we will force you out of the political party. They never threatened excommunication, though. They viewed what Tiso was doing inside the Hlinka party as harmful to the Catholic cause. There was other factions inside the Tiso's organization that encouraged the anti-Semitism further, like their equivalent to the SS. Which,
yeah, the man with the glasses.
He was
old man.
He was more radical towards mimicking the Nazis, but he still was very much focused on Catholicism. That guy, I cannot remember his name for the life of me. It might have been Ben Kuhn.
No, he led the military part of it, like the.
Yeah, I'm aware. I just am trying to remember his name. Was it
the Hinka Guard? He led the Hinka Guard.
Yeah, but
I'll look him up for you. Hold on.
I'm like flipping through the pages of this book, and I keep going either too far, where it's like 1944, where Tiso tried fleeing the country because he realized the jig was up, and a bit before when he was like plundering around as a priest during World War I in Austria-Hungary.
Did they defrock him?
No. Oh no, he received no official punishment from the church other than them yelling at him from the distance.
Are you kidding me?
Like, even though the church viewed him as a threat to the state of like the Catholic Church in Slovakia, they did nothing because he just had too much local power. Because what the dynamic really.
Wojciech Tuka.
Oh, Tuka. Okay, he was the one that was really funny when reading the book, where it's like Hlinka poisoned this man because he trusted him and thought he was a good judgment of character. Tuka was a Hungarian agent.
Was he actually a Hungarian agent?
Yes. Yeah, like most of the Hlinka party were Magyarons and Hungarian agents. Like a Magyaron being one of the people inside of Slovakia or Czechia that most of the time Slovakia that seeked to Hungarianize the region, start speaking Hungarian. Like Tiso had to deal with that accusation for most of his life of being a Magyaron because he started doing like homilies in Hungarian. He started doing a lot of stuff in Hungarian to try to encourage the Hungarian language, and then switched over to being a Slovak nationalist as soon as it fit him.
So he really was a fascist.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he was a slimy little turd, wasn't he?
The thing was, like, he would just ride the waves of whatever was kind of popular to ride on. He would... A lot of it that I remember off the top of my head was him doing all these little projects to just try to encourage Catholicism, which is like making these like spas and the like, which always failed and ran out of money. So he would reappropriate land from the Jews.
Did you say spas?
Oh yeah, spas and like getaway vacations to go live the good Catholic life for a vacation.
Nice. Waterkeep, this is why we invite you on the podcast. You bring up these like weird, out of left field facts that just make us go, "What?"
That's my specialty.
Hold on, sorry, what?
Like a lot
he
of
had
it.
Spas?
Wait, what?
The man had spas.
Yeah, he had a lot of spas. Like it was a whole, like it was one of his seminal projects before he took power fully. It was like one trying to reform education and also trying to like help. He was like the health minister, I believe, under not when the Hlinka Party won, but won in a coalition. And it was his first touch at political office. Immediately floundered it. He also had like the same Gishgalop style of debate that like Ben Shapiro has. So think of it like the annoying debate style of Ben Shapiro. Mix that in with being, a Jew baiting fascist, and also mix that in with the like authority of the church. It was the perfect storm of just how to create a terrible person who thinks they're in the moral right.
So what you're saying is he was his generation's Nick Fuentes.
Honestly, Nick Fuentes. I want to say this: Tiso is more personally moral than Nick Fuentes, from what we know about Tiso, which is like a little scuffed.
The only thing I can think of when I think of anti-Semitic Catholic Ben Shapiro is Nick Fuentes.
It's an accurate comparison.
It's an accurate comparison.
I mean,
but with Tiso, like a lot of his ideations with anti-Semitism are also very skin deep, just more out of religious hatred from what I can tell. Well, actually, like the religious hatred and ethnic hatred seem to go like hand in hand, but he kind of viewed it as one of the same. A lot of his attempts with like creating a new Slovakia failed. His time in minister before he became, the personal dictator over Slovakia with the Hlinka Guard and all that stuff was a huge failure. Like the Hlinka party lost a lot of influence, and then when he started to rise to power again, he had to rely on basically kissing Hitler's ass as much as he could in order to rise through the rank.
Well, he did put pedicures before policy, so that should have been a good enough answer for his political career.
Well, he thought that was going to raise the health and get, the poor Slovak laborer out into the mountains or whatever the hell he was thinking. Like, Tiso, like, there's a logic to his policies, but also very bad execution for most of it because he was kind of an incompetent who just was able to kiss the right asses. Like, the Hlinka loved Tiso, I'm pretty sure. It was like, Tiso was his choice for succession. While Tuka and there's the other one. I don't remember what the third guy was in their little triumvirate.
Well, anywho, we're running out of time. So, do we have any final thoughts or?
Nope.
Nope. Nada. All right. Without further ado, please bow your heads and join us in prayer. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us of our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for bringing us all here this evening. Thank you for bringing us all here safely. We pray that we remain safe until the next podcast. We pray for the success of our movement, and we pray that you bless the American people. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all for joining us tonight. We hope you'll join us next time on Monarchist Minute. Until then, may God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.